All right. Hey, good morning or good afternoon, depending on where you're watching from. I just got a weird audio hiccup, John. Did that happen to you too, or was it pretty smooth when you heard the beep?
No, nice and smooth on my end.
Okay, that's really weird. I was like, oh no, it froze up. But hey, if you're going to be in a scenario where you're going on live on LinkedIn and you have anyone on with you, you want to have this guy with you, John Espirian. Hey, John, how are you doing today?
I'm very well, Brenda. Thank you for having me.
Good. I am delighted. I'm really looking forward to having the conversation, and I want to welcome our audience into the conversation right now. Hey, if you guys are watching, could you do us a favor? Could you drop a comment below? Let us know that you can see us, hear us, and where in the world you're watching from. I am in the lovely United States, over the pond, so to speak, and John is out in the UK. So we're actually two different time zones. Is it about what 2:05 in the afternoon for you right
That's
now?
absolutely right. 5 hours difference.
Very good. Well, very good. Well, I'm delighted to have you on the show here today. And this is my show. I call this Social Media Pie. It's my LinkedIn Live series. PIE is an acronym here. It stands for Inspiring People Who Inform and Educate You. And I always bring on very special guests with me, and we bring into the conversation topics that I'm personally interested in. That's one of my little hacks. I always like selfishly pick topics I'm interested in hearing more about, but I know that my listening audience and followers are interested in as well. So, guys, today we're going to be talking about LinkedIn groups. And before we do so, I want to just remind those of you who maybe aren't familiar with John. I talk about John like all the time, like several times a week. John, I'm tagging you in posts, either talking about your book, Content DNA, or I'm talking about something you have taught me over the years. And many people that have been following me for a while probably know the backstory of the LinkedIn rock stars. You're the person who inspired it, and you were the very first person I was tracking. So, John, for those people who don't know about you and your business, why don't you take a few minutes and tell us about you, and then we'll jump into our chat.
Lovely. Thank you, Brenda. Well, I'm John Espirian. I'm based in Newport in South Wales in the UK, and I call myself the relentlessly helpful LinkedIn nerd. I'm an eager experimenter of LinkedIn. I like pressing the buttons and clicking the menus and trying to find out how LinkedIn works and instruct people on that. I used to be a copywriter. I've really shifted now towards community leadership and helping people optimize their LinkedIn presence so that they can get a bit more business. That's it. That's all I really want to say. Let's get cracking into this discussion.
Yeah, this is great. And John's very, very open with sharing information. And I love the experiments and tests and things like that that you do. And the LinkedIn platform has evolved, and it's really changed a lot over the years. And one thing we've always been holding out, and I say we, the LinkedIn training community, we've always been holding out, like, there's so much potential in LinkedIn groups, and it just seems like LinkedIn hasn't really gotten to that point where groups are as visible
Mm.
or as, I don't know, I want to say as useful, but I think folks like you, John, you figured out a way to make LinkedIn groups really work well for you. So talk to me a little bit about, first of all, your experience with LinkedIn groups. And let's assume people are watching are kind of like, hey, I want to start a LinkedIn group, or I have a group and it's not working. What advice can you offer for those folks?
Yeah, well, I mean, my position on groups came from a bit of bias of seeing groups not really performing very well, and I kind of had a bit of a downer on them. But I thought, well, I've never actually tried to run one myself, so let's just see what happens and see whether this is going to be the same failure that I've seen other people have. So I started my own free LinkedIn group last year, and it quickly grew to several hundred members and was really, really active and quite successful, really. It took a lot of my time, but it did at least prove to me that in at least one case, they can work. Yes, you're right that LinkedIn have put quite a lot of effort in trying to keep them alive. But most groups that I've been in have ended up being either ghost towns or really spam fests, which
Right.
really are a turn off. So if that's your experience of group, I totally understand why you might not want to dip your own toe in the water yourself. But if you're thinking of starting your own group, I mean, so long as you can set a clear agenda, a clear purpose for being in the group, and foster as much engagement in there as you can, real conversations without spammy links and sales pitches all the time. I do think that they can work. They might not have all the functionality of something like Facebook, where you can go live inside a group, for example, but they can work, and I've seen it's not just my group that has worked. I've seen others that have worked as well. So they definitely can be a good thing.
Lots of potential. And you
Yeah,
started off with,
definitely.
and if I'm remembering correctly, and correct me if I'm wrong, you created a group called Espresso, and now you
Mhm.
have Espresso Plus. And I
Mhm.
In
Yeah,
a pre-show, I was calling it Espirian because the words are so similar where you're like,
that's
"Nope, that's
right.
not it." So Espresso was the first group, and that was the one that was open to anyone,
Yeah,
right?
that's right. And the reason I created that is because I started really with a mailing list about 5 or 6 years ago. And a
Mhm,
mailing list is great. You know, all marketing people will tell you, you should have a mailing list. You should have a way of communicating with your people outside of social media, which is great, but it's a broadcast platform. You know, you say
mhm,
stuff, loads of people receive it, some of them reply, but no one sees what each other person is saying, or they don't even know who else is subscribed to the list. So it's not really a community. It's just a broadcast platform, I think. And I
yeah.
thought, well, I want my subscribers to be able to talk to each other. So we need a group setting for that. And I've used things like Slack and other tools before. But given that most of the stuff I tend to talk about is about LinkedIn, it made sense that the community should be on LinkedIn as well.
Mhm.
And so I was
Yeah,
starting a LinkedIn group was the natural progression. And then when I got really super busy doing that for free, I thought, well, I either need to drop this because it's just taking up too much of my time in my workday, or I need to go all in on it and actually monetize this. And if I monetize it, I need to provide more than just a discussion platform. I need to, create content for people and, do content reviews and Q&A sessions and just the whole thing around supporting people properly in a community. And that's where the plus came from. And so this community that I'm making is much more than just a LinkedIn group, but that's where it did start. Yeah.
that's awesome. And so let's go back to, the group that you created originally, the free
Mhm.
group, and that's what most people have on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
When I say free group, meaning you don't have to pay to be a part of it, it's open. Was it open to anyone, John, or was it only open by invitation? Was it private unlisted, or was it like
It
anyone
was
could
it
join
was
it?
publicly listed, but you
Okay.
still have to request to join, and so it was
Okay.
within my power to say, "No, this spammy robot account, no, I'm not gonna let you in." And there were a few instances like that, but theoretically, it was open to any real human being. Yes, and thankfully, I seem to attract people who actually wanted to chat, wanted to learn, and it became quite a nice collaborative environment pretty quickly. So
Mhm.
within a couple of months, we grew to more than 600 members.
Wow.
And if you're actively managing a group of that size, who are many of whom are chatting every day, that's a lot of oversight. It takes a lot of time. So thankfully, it was a really active space.
So were you in that group every day? Was it once a week? Was it like when you remembered to do it, or what?
I was I was
How?
there every day. I was
Yeah.
there every day, and the reason was because when I've been part of groups in the past,
Mhm.
the biggest problem I've seen is just there's just a lack of activity and there's no obvious leadership going on. So I thought if people are going to sign up for a group that's with me as the spearhead, that they're signing up for a reason, and I need to give them some value. So I tried to be there every day, and that's a lot of effort to do it
Mhm.
right. And so I understand that some groups, some communities will have community managers and so forth. But one of the big issues I've had with previous communities I've been in is that you get kind of like a big name attracting you in,
Right.
and then you get handed over to a junior person who's actually managing the day to day of the Facebook group or whatever. And that I never liked that. It's like I'm signing up not for you, but I'm signing up for that person. And I thought I didn't want to give people that feeling. So I thought, well, if I'm going to run this, I'm going to run it myself. And
Mhm.
that's the reason why I decided when I went all in with this that I was going to keep it small because I want to do everything.
You wanted to, yeah.
So you can call that being a control freak, but
No, I think it's part of your brand. I mean, you wanted to make sure that your brand was being managed well and that people that are coming into the
yeah,
doors of the John Esperian group are getting
yeah,
John Esperian, the
getting
John
me.
Esperian
That's right.
experience, right?
Yeah, that's it. Absolutely. So I would advise you if you're going to set up a group, just be
Mhm.
really, really clear about your description. What
Mhm.
is the purpose of this thing? And then be clear that you're going to have to dedicate some time to get the right people in and foster some engagement with them, and maybe have direct message conversations with them outside the group, and just to keep things ticking over. It's really a lot of effort, to be honest with you. It's really a lot.
Yeah, sounds like it. So let's talk a little bit about this whole community engagement aspect. And I heard you saying, you set up some rules for the group and your group, you had kind of the door closed and you got, they had to knock on the door and say, "Can I come in?" And you would
Mhm.
look at their profile and decide whether or not to have them come in. Have you had instances with your group where people haven't played by the rules? And then if so, what's your advice to people? Do we kick them out? Do we notify them first? Do we block
Yeah,
them? What do you do?
I think you need to be clear about what you will tolerate and what you won't tolerate. So if I would
Mhm.
start by saying, in this group, we talk about X, Y, and Z. These are our topics of discussion. Anything else is considered off topic. That means that if people are clear on that and then they post those other things anyway, well, you can go and delete those posts. And if they're repeat offenders, you could remove them from the group. And if you tell people as much, like you say, I've just removed a person because they were continually posting, salesy, spammy links,
Right.
everyone then gets the message. Hopefully, you would attract people who don't actually transcend those rules. But being really clear about the rules up front, I think, is helpful, and then no one can be in any doubt about what the purpose is.
Gotcha. And do you connect with everyone who's in your group before bringing them in, or do you recommend that as group managers we connect with all of our group members? What do you
Well,
think there?
you can, when someone asks to join your group, you can message them back without being connected with them, even if you've got a free account. I
Okay.
happen to have a premium account, so I could message them anyway. But you can send back a free message. And so some people, for some reasons, don't want to connect with you. You can
Mm.
still DM each other. And so I haven't connected with absolutely everyone who was in my free group. I do make an effort to do that with the people in my paid community, because it feels weird that it's not a first level connection and you might want to send them a voice note and you can't because you're not connected. That
Right.
feels odd to me, that they're paying me and I can't actually reach them. But in a free group, you don't need to be connected. But I would recommend it anyway. I think it's a good sign. If you're invested in something, they should be a connection of yours.
Oh, good point. I like that, and I would agree too. But for some reason, some people may say, "Well, I'm at the connection limit. I can't accept anymore," or
Mm,
there may be other reasons or limitations with there. And there are people, and I see Jeff Young's one of the folks who's watching in our audience right now. And I know Jeff, he has a lot of followers, but he doesn't have a lot of connections, so he's more
mhm.
selective about going through that process. And there's people that do that, that have different philosophies. I want to talk about, one of the limitations or one of the concerns I've had with groups is it's really hard to see what's going on inside the group. And I'm not sure if it's I'm a member of your group and I get every once in a while I'll get a notification or I'll see something in my homepage feed that
Mhm.
is the group activity.
Yeah.
And that's been one of my concerns. We don't get those notifications popping up or those things that are
Mm.
pushing us out that are bringing us in. And groups tend not to appear in the homepage feed as often.
Yeah.
What's your experience and knowledge with that? Is it because it's an active group and I'm interacting regularly that I'm seeing in the homepage feed? Is it a group setting? And any
Yeah. So
recommendations for folks?
whenever you join a group, the best way of making sure that you see all of the content within the group is to go and click the bell within the top of the group homepage. So people are familiar with bells on people's profiles, but each group also has a bell. So if you tick that, then all new posts within the group should be notified to you, unless you've unfollowed the person doing the post. So you
Ah,
could do that.
okay.
The more you interact, the more likely LinkedIn is to refer that into your main content. So if you're going and commenting on every post in the group,
Mhm.
you're probably going to not need the bell, because everything's going to start getting referred into your feed anyway. LinkedIn
Right.
has a bit of a quirk in that group content isn't always shown chronologically. The workaround I found for that is, if you go into your group, at the top of the screen where you've got your normal search bar, it will instead change to search for posts in this group. If
Mm.
you then do an empty search, so click into the field and just press return, it will do an empty search, which will send back all of the posts again because there's no filtering. And then you can filter that by recent and then it
Ooh,
puts
that's
it in order.
brilliant. I'm
So
I'm kind of like I'm torn, like, I wanna, like, pull a group up on screen and show people this technique right now, but I also, your group I know is private only to your members, and I have a couple that I'm managing that are kinda client groups and private groups, but I love the thought
yeah,
here, and actually the bell notification, that's new information for me. I didn't know that
yeah.
bells were available in groups. Is that a newer feature, John, or has that always
Yeah,
been
that's
on
come
there?
in the last 6 months or so.
Okay.
And just going back to the with that blank search hack,
Yeah.
if you then bookmark that thing, that could act as your group homepage then, because then you'll always see the most recent post at the top. It does
Ah,
mean that you miss the pinned post, because I will, as an admin, I will pin one post at all times, which is in
mhm.
Espresso Plus. That would be the events coming up for the current month.
Okay.
So if you've order by recent, then you will miss your pinned post if you do that, but you won't miss anything else. So that's
Okay.
that's a quite a useful workaround. I mean, really, LinkedIn should sort that out so it is displayed chronologically by default.
Right.
But hey, there you go.
But you're the kind of person, John, you kind of look at, you kick the tires, you figure things out, you figure what works, what doesn't work, and then you have
Mm,
some workarounds in it. And, we know it's not a perfect platform by any means.
mm.
Sometimes I feel like I wish they would tell us when they knew of a known issue, but we kind of discover them and we share them
Yeah,
amongst each other.
yeah,
I'm curious though, within a group, I know that there's a way that you can notify all group members of a post. And I've
yes.
heard from my group members, they don't always get those notifications. Are you aware of that feature? And do you have any thoughts or workarounds
Yes.
there?
So that's called recommending a post, and you can
Mm,
do that once every 7 days,
mm,
and the other party should receive a notification so long as they are still following you. I don't know of any robust way of really testing that. I don't use this feature often, but
mm.
let's say if I've done a deep dive or if I've done a content review and it's, I've taken an hour to create a video, that's probably quite valuable to the community, in which case I'd want to recommend that rather than just, so people might miss it in the feed otherwise. And so I'll use it sparingly, but also I'm just mindful of not bombing people with loads of notifications. So
Yeah.
what used to happen is that admins of groups would recommend stuff all the time, and it
Mhm.
became their soapbox, their platform to say, hey, my 9.99 offer is still on,
Right. Buy
and
my
just do that
services,
all
right?
the time, and I think that's really, really spammy. So try to avoid it and just provide maximum value as much as possible.
So it sounds like you feel like there's still potential in groups and you've found
Yeah,
a path towards that, right?
absolutely. I'll tell you what would really, really change the game. I mean, I think groups are good because I think I've proved that they definitely can work. What would really change the game is if LinkedIn lets you do live video and live audio just for a group, because I
Mm.
would be using that all the time to just speak to my members. Like I've only ever done one independent LinkedIn live of my own. I've got
Is that right?
paper
You've been guest
StreamYard.
on many though.
Yeah, I've been a guest on lots. Yeah, probably
Yeah.
about 20 of these shows. But
Yeah.
I've only ever done one of my own because live video doesn't really suit me as a broadcaster of short, sharp content. But
Yeah.
if I could say, I'm going to go live for 5 minutes every morning for my group, just to say what's moving and shaking, who's doing what, here's a little tip I picked up. That I would definitely do just for my group, but I can't. So at the moment, you go live for everyone or no one.
Right.
And if LinkedIn pares that down to say you can start an audio room for your group, you could start a live video room for your group, I think that would just be so, so valuable. And Facebook has obviously had this for years, still hasn't come to LinkedIn yet, but that's what I'm hoping for.
Well, hint, hint, LinkedIn. And if anyone knows people that work at LinkedIn, go ahead and tag them in the comments right now and tell them that John has some suggestions on groups. Cause I really feel like, I mean, come into the day, John, the goal
Mm,
is, for LinkedIn, they want to keep people on the platform longer.
yeah.
They don't want people to go to Zoom or to Facebook or
Mm,
to Slack. And if
yeah.
we, as kind of quote unquote experts can help to keep people on the platform longer, if we're saying here's some ways of doing it,
Yeah.
it just seems like, if there was a place that we could submit ideas to LinkedIn
That
and
would
maybe
be
it
really
is
cool.
right. And
Yeah. And
technically, even, I mean, I look at the topic for today's LinkedIn Live, and I remember when they first launched LinkedIn Live, they said you can't talk about LinkedIn in LinkedIn Live. And for the most part, we don't make it the focus of our topics, but occasionally we have a subject like this where I'm really feeling like we're trying to help the
yeah.
platform. We're trying to help the members to use groups more effectively. And we're not trying to hack the system or show you backdoors of things that we're just trying to like let's show you by demonstrating how people like John have used
Yeah.
groups. So I feel like I don't think I'm going to get penalized. I don't hope they don't kick me off for talking
Let's
about
hope
LinkedIn
not.
groups.
Let's hope not. If I were to make one more suggestion, I
Sure,
would love
yeah.
to see something like a document store or an
Oh yeah.
article store or a video store within a group to say, here are all the private articles in this group, here are all the private videos in this group, here are all the private PDFs in this group. That
Mhm.
would be great. That would then turn into a library that people could refer to, search independently without having to scroll through millions of posts or hope that the search filter discovers things. I can't imagine that would be that difficult to implement. It's a
Right.
search at the end of the day and a separate screen, but that would really add a lot of value as well. So yes, as you said, if LinkedIn are listening, please
Yeah,
do that as
let's
well.
just assume they are. Let's keep dropping some ideas. So,
Yeah.
because I know what you're talking about, like in your personal timeline, you can see all activity,
Mm,
posts, articles, and then it's like documents, which is like, well, that's kind of odd.
yeah.
And I don't think they have a videos tab yet. I'm hoping they'll have something, but like they categorize certain things in there that you can go into
Yeah.
and find.
Yeah.
And then there's like, well, why can't I see these other types of posts? Why can't I see my videos? But I know there's a categorization system someplace in the LinkedIn coding that they
Yes,
can
that's
use
right.
and ask for.
That's
So,
right. And on that point,
yeah,
company pages do have a videos tab, and I
right.
have seen a screenshot of videos tab on personal profiles, but I don't know if LinkedIn are going to implement it.
Really?
So
Hmm.
that it's definitely in the back end code, but whether it's going to be rolled out, that would make perfect sense. But if they're going to do it, I don't know.
Yeah, that would be great. So let's talk about visibility of groups, from the homepage on
Mhm.
LinkedIn. John, how do we find groups that we belong to? And do you have any suggestions on helping to make those easier to find, to navigate to? Any thoughts there?
Yeah, well, I mean, if you're on desktop, then if you look down the left-hand side panel, beneath all of your kind of mini profile information and analytics, it will list things like events that you've signed up to and hashtags that you follow, but also groups that you're active in are listed
Mm,
there too. So what I would recommend, and I believe you can also find that same list through your My Network tab. What I would recommend is if there is a group that you've just joined and you're planning to be active in it, I would bookmark that in your browser so that you can just do a one-click jump straight back to the group homepage. And that way you can see, you can see the pinned post. And if you want to filter by the recent stuff, as I mentioned earlier, you could do that and bookmark that instead. That's the best way because you definitely can't guarantee that all of the group activity will be referred into your feed. And weirdly, I'm in some other groups. I mean,
mhm,
you've got a group, Jeff's got a group, a couple of other people. I tend to see that other group content in my feed only if someone I know has also commented on it, and that'll be the reason why it gets referred in. So it's
mm.
like it's not just the post that needs to be referred; it needs to be the post and someone you know has commented on it, and that'll be enough for LinkedIn to go, okay, we're going to show him this stuff.
That's
So
interesting.
rather than relying on that, I think bookmarking your groups that you want to be active in and just give it some focused attention. The more you get active in there, the more likely you are to see that information melded into your main feed, and then you're good from there. But
That's
it's not optimal. The way they've set it up isn't brilliant. So you do need to make a bit of an effort.
it's even like I'm trying to think of other ways to do it, and I just bookmarked as you were talking about. I just bookmarked
Mhm.
Espresso Plus in mine so I
Yeah,
can find it a little bit
nice.
easier. Um, but it is a destination for me. Man, I think some places they push content out and they pull you back in, and other places you have to go and visit. And I
Mhm.
feel like for the most part, that's what groups are for me. Now, your group, and I'll admit, sometimes I see posts from you, and then sometimes see posts from you from the Espresso Plus group, and other
Mhm.
times I see posts from other group members that I interact
Yeah,
with regularly, to your point, that pop up in my
yeah.
homepage feed. But for the most part, I think it's like a destination, so you do need to make it an effort. What is your advice for people? I know that there's like a group limit. It used to be 50. I'm not sure if it's 100 now. Like how many groups you can belong to on LinkedIn. Should we join a lot of groups on LinkedIn, John, or should we be a little bit more selective about that? What are your thoughts there?
Um, I'm just having a look at what the current limits are. Um, yeah, you can be a part of 100 groups,
Hmm.
and you can manage 30 groups. That's a whole lot of managing.
Wow.
I think one of the reasons for being in a group actually is to give algorithmic signals to LinkedIn about what you're interested in. So even if you're not actually going to be active in the group,
Hmm.
if you're interested in a topic, just being in those groups signals to LinkedIn that this is something I care about. These are the kind of people I want to see, the people who are interested in, logo design or architecture or whatever it
Sure.
is.
Hmm.
And also, when you're in a group, you can see who the other members of the group are,
Right.
and you can message them for free, which means that if you find like an ideal client who is in one of these groups, you join that group, you might find suddenly 100 other ideal clients who you might want to get to know, and you can message them without even connecting with them. So obviously be careful with spamming people, but they can be good strategically in terms of showing LinkedIn what you care about and finding new potential clients. But if you're talking about actually being known through being active, you probably can't afford to be active in too many groups at once
Right.
because it's a lot of effort, time is limited. And remember that for every group that you're active in, that's your public not seeing that activity. Because unless they're also in the group, they won't know that you've posted or commented or anything. It's a dark activity from their point of view.
Right.
Um, and it's always interesting when I look at the people I'm following, it might say, so and so has done 73 posts this week. And you think, well, I've only seen 5 or 6 of theirs. So they
Hmm.
must be posting in groups that I'm not a part of. And that's why I'm not seeing their activity. So they're really active, but I'm only seeing a surface level of that because they're doing all of this stuff in groups, which might suit them. But just keep in mind that however much effort you put in, not everyone is going to see that activity. So you don't necessarily get the full benefit of the power of your posts, the power of your comments.
Yeah, very cool. And as you're talking there just now, I was just thinking of a couple things. One is I'm not even sure how many groups I'm a part of. I know some of them I haven't even been in, probably in a
Mhm.
year or two. So I may want to go through and like prune myself out of those groups so I'm not
Yeah.
having as many of them. And the other part that you talked about was, find groups where your clients or prospective clients are a part of and
Mm.
go and you can find other people like them. But do keep in mind too, there's a lot of like salespeople who think that way. So we'll go inside a group that's called marketing leaders because that's who I sell to,
Mm.
and sometimes you go inside that group and there's really not many marketing leaders. There's a lot of salespeople
Right.
selling to those group. And then, I mean, the quick tell, John, I think is as you look through the activity feed in the group, it's sales pitch, sales pitch, sales pitch,
Mm.
sales pitch, right? So
And
it's a big,
that's one of the death knells of groups. That's what kills them off.
right? There you go. So you've made the successful transition from, having a group that was open to the public, with your approval, obviously, but a free
Mhm.
group open to the public, to a group that's really part of, I don't know, do you call it a membership program or how do you
Yeah,
categorize
I
that?
call it a membership community, and
Mhm.
it's certainly more than just a group. But I wanted to support small business owners who just want a bit more online visibility and best practice on things like personal branding, content creation, and also obviously LinkedIn. So I wanted to do things that were beyond just a group. Like for example, I wanted people to submit their LinkedIn posts to me so I can review them on video. I
Mhm.
wanted to hop on Zoom so we can have live Q&A sessions, and I wanted to just spend some time doing deep dives into various different topics, like how I create my videos, maybe, or how captioning works on videos, that kind of thing. And all of that just requires more time commitment, and so obviously you've got to charge for that if it's going to be
Right.
something that's viable. So I found a pricing model that seems to have worked. I set up 100 founder member spots to
Mhm.
get some early registrations through the door, and built some FOMO through my LinkedIn posts and through emails and so forth. Managed to get more than 100 members in the first day, which was lovely. And right now we're sitting at 215, and I've decided that I'm going to limit this to 300 members max, and then after that
Okay.
it'll be like a one in one out system. So someone will have to leave before someone new can join, and that's when the FOMO will really be ramped up for some people, because I'm trying to move this to become my only business, really
Yeah.
running this community.
I
And
think
that
it's
means I'm going
brilliant.
to put
Yeah.
as much effort as I can into it. Yeah.
And this is something you love doing, John. I mean, you talked about before it's spending a lot of time doing it, but eventually you do have to look at how am I paying my bills and where's my
Yeah.
business going? And you give out so much value all the time, and that's part of the reason I'm always tagging you into posts and giving you visibility and sending people to your book page and telling them about your group and everything, because I feel like, John, you give out so much free value all the time. For me, when you talked about that FOMO element when you first launched the group, and I'm like, well, I mean, I know you, I know what the things that you talk about, and there are some similarities in the work that we do, meaning that we help educate people on using
Mhm.
LinkedIn. And I kind of felt like I didn't want to, I'm like, I didn't want to like come into your group because I'm like, this is John's territory, and I don't want him to feel like I'm coming in, and I'm not coming in to pull clients out. But
Yeah.
I saw the I'm continuing to get your emails, and I saw the second wave of emails. It was about, was it a couple months back, maybe 2 months ago? And you said, "Hey, I'm opening it up and there's going to be an exclusive number of spots. Once they're gone, you can't get in." And I emailed
Mm.
you and I said, "John, I said, I love the value you're providing. I'd like to join the group to support you. Is that okay with you?" So, I mean, thoughts on that? And you did a post about this the other day about LinkedIn trainers and coaches that are
Yeah.
part of your community. Tell us about that.
So I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know whether LinkedIn trainers and specialists would be remotely interested in joining a group where I talk mostly about LinkedIn. But they have gradually joined, and we've probably got about 30 people who meet that criteria out of the 200 plus members. But it's an abundance mindset. We share what we learn. Most LinkedIn trainers I've come across are kind of like that. You use the word co-opetition. It's
Yes.
that in action, really. I If I teach you something and you go off and use it to help you find more clients or serve your clients better, that's brilliant. I love that. That's why I'm doing this whole thing. So the fact that I'm sharing my LinkedIn knowledge with other people who want to go and promote LinkedIn, uh, I've got no issue with that at all. I don't have that scarcity mindset. So it's been great that so many people have joined, and it does mean that we can even think about running kind of advanced sessions that are explicitly for those specialists within the community to say, okay, this isn't just for everyone now. We're going to go really deep and nerdy because we've got some specialists in the community. Not everyone is a novice. I think it's fantastic, and I'm really glad to see so many people have joined. And yes, the thing you're alluding to is I did a post recently just to say, if you are a specialist, don't be put off. Here are 24 of them in the community, and you can be just like them and join if you want to. And
Right,
you
and
were
I
one
love
of
that
them.
you did that too, because I was kinda like, I don't wanna step on your turf. I wanna be very respectful of the fact that this is your group and your community. I didn't wanna come inside, but I was like, "Oh, like, Beth Granger's in," and, all these
Yeah.
other people that I kinda feel like are similar in terms of the work that we offer, and it's the whole abundance mentality. There's more than enough pie
Mm.
to go around for all of us, and if we take a slice, it doesn't mean there's less for everyone. It's
Yeah.
actually expands the pie. We get more from each other, and my only, suggestion for people is if you are learning things from others that you're giving them credit and one of the things, for example, that I've learned, I mean, I've learned so many things from you, but one of the things I've learned is like this expression, your posts are for telling, your profile is for selling. And I
Yeah.
give credit to you when I share that phrase. So as you're learning knowledge from the group, letting people know this is something I learned from John Espirian and from the group. I want to shift gears a little bit here, John. I
Mhm.
pulled open the ticker that asks people if they have any questions. And I
Okay.
do see one question that came in. I want to pull this up on screen. Laura is asking, what's the name of your group? So tell us the name and tell us the rationale between like how you came up with that name.
Okay. So the name of the paid group is Espresso Plus, and probably inspired by the fact that it shares the same 3 letters as my surname. But when I came up with espresso, I thought of giving people shots of digital caffeine, like little short emails that I'd send them, short tips that I do on social media. That's what espresso was all about, really. And the plus is just because it's more than just a group now. It's video reviews and email list and Zoom calls and there's also a private podcast as well if you're a
Oh,
member
cool.
too. So yeah, it's a bit more than just a group, but yeah, that's where the name came from. And I do like coffee, and I've even got my Bitmoji on a
I
mug.
love it.
So,
John, you're like famous for the Bitmojis. You do a great job. And
yeah.
someone and Laura was like, okay, how do I find it? And I see the conversation in here. And Jeff, hey Jeff, thank you so much for watching. So Jeff is saying it's Espresso Plus, but we won't find it in a search. Is that right, John? If we wanted
Yeah,
to
it's
look for
not a
your
listed group because you need to become a member of the community before you get access to the group, because a group is just one aspect of what the whole thing is. So yes, if you go to my website, if you go to espirian.co.uk, there's a membership tab there, and that will give you pricing and the opportunity to join. Once you join, then I'll grant you access to the group link and all the other goodies that are in the community.
Awesome. And I just dropped the website on here. I'm gonna actually pull up your website right now since we're talking about it. It's gonna take me just a second to pull it up on here, John.
Cool.
While we are doing that, I know you said there's several elements that are part of the group. So it's not just the LinkedIn group, John. It's also
No.
you've got, and I haven't even, I'll admit, like I paid to join, and you have like a monthly rate and you have an annual rate. And I was
Yeah.
like, take my money. Here's the annual. I don't want to deal with the billing every month. And I think you offer
Yeah.
a slight discount for joining like the year, the
Yeah,
full
that's
year.
right.
Right.
And actually, at the end of May, I'm going to be experimenting with taking the monthly option out for new members altogether, because I found that between 10 and 15% of credit cards fail to renew properly, and so I've
Oh,
got a load of
really?
admin messing around, which I didn't really want. So I want to encourage people to sign up for the year, but also because that demonstrates a bit more commitment from the person, and people are really willing to learn. So yeah, you've
Okay.
got my website open there. So if you tap the membership link that's in the top right corner, the green button,
Oh, look at
that
that.
will,
I'm
yeah,
like,
that.
John is, and I have to give a huge shout out if you've heard me talk about John, I've talked about his book Content DNA, and I've even incorporated that phrase into this is part of my content DNA, a phrase I've learned from you. And I mean, very consistent with what you do. And even like the call, if you just look at the website right now, where are your eyes drawn? The book, and then I see like 3 buttons, like join community, LinkedIn support, and membership. So the
Yeah,
membership
that's it.
one is in
Yeah,
the upper
membership or join community would take you there, and there's just a bit of
right.
an explainer about what the community is all about, and the benefits of joining, and how many members we've got, and so forth. And there's prices at the bottom.
Yeah.
But as I say, monthly is available only until the end of May.
Okay.
So there we go.
All right, I'm going to drop that link into the LinkedIn stream chat right now so people
Nice.
can
Thank you.
check that out. I'm just dropping it. Look how consistent you are with your branding too. Was that video filmed today, John, or was that like a while ago?
I did that probably about a month ago or so, but you can see behind, you
Yeah.
can see all these colored notes behind me are all of our members. I mean, if I move my webcam a little bit, you
Oh,
can see they
wow.
all go up
How cool.
to the wall. So yeah, that's all of our 200 plus members there.
That's
And
very
you know, I
cool.
wouldn't have a community without you all. So you're all somewhere on my wall.
That's funny. And we first came each other across each other, John. I don't remember what it was exactly that delivered you into my homepage, but I remember you posted something and you said you got like a spike in profile views and you couldn't figure out why. And
Mhm.
I was like, maybe because Espirian is similar to Experian, the credit website. And we got into conversation and I started following you. And this was back in gosh, maybe 2018. It was a while back, but
Something
I've
like
just
that. Yeah.
continued to watch you over the years, and you've consistently delivered value. You've done, great tests on different approaches on using LinkedIn. And I want to change gears just for a second before we wrap up today. And there's always changes that are happening on the platform, John. Is there anything that's rolled out recently within the past 6 months or so that you're kind of excited about? Aside from groups, but on the main profile or in the homepage or anything like that that you want to tell us
Yeah,
about?
I think creator analytics, which is quite recent, is good because we're getting more information about how our posts are performing. People like me sign up for tools like Shield that gives us even more, but this is now being baked into LinkedIn, so I think that's a good thing. Um, the web link is now available for people in creator mode. So at the top of your LinkedIn profile, you can now link to an external website, which I think is pretty cool. And normally, and you can see mine says join the Espresso Plus community. That's my link at the top, so I'll take you straight there if you go to my profile.
Now, can
Um,
anyone see that, John, or is that still only
if you've got the
visible by
feature, yeah, if you've got the feature, you'll be able to see it. And LinkedIn is rolling that out now, so increasingly people will be able to see that feature. Not everyone has got it yet, but yeah. And you can also see in the top right corner the black or dark grey bell that's next to my premium logo. That means that if you're
right here?
following someone, you can click
Mhm.
that bell, and that should send you notifications about all of their new posts. So that's a good way of getting extra information about someone's content. Personally, I don't always rely on that because LinkedIn can be a bit sketchy with notifications sometimes. So I would
Right.
probably use my little bookmark trick of looking at all of their posts and bookmarking that as a feed if I really want to do my due diligence on a person. But that's a relatively new feature as well. And one of my favorite features is the cover video, or now called profile video, cover story, now called profile video.
Do you mind if I
That,
play yours right now for our
yeah, go
audience?
for it. And
Okay.
it's that
So
ring that's around the profile photo. Yeah,
I'm just gonna refresh John's page for a second. If you guys haven't seen this feature yet, just watch his headshot photo for a second and it'll do a little preview. Sometimes it'll do a little preview. There it goes. So
there it is.
we can see his face moving a little bit. And then
Harry
it goes
Potter
away and
mode,
you're
as
like,
they call it. Yeah,
what was that? So now we gotta click on to watch it.
yeah, that's it. There we go. So you can see me in action, and it's yeah, it's a good feature. Every time I look at a profile, it's
Mhm.
the first thing I look for. Do they have that bluish purple ring around their face? If they do, I know that I've got a video that I can watch, and that's enough for me to make a judgment call about that person.
Yeah, and
So people who haven't recorded this, I think they're missing a trick.
I
Even if you
think
don't
you
want to
taught
create
me too
videos
that
regularly.
when you change this video, it pushes a notification out. I think you taught me that, or maybe I did
Yeah.
an update and you messaged me and you said, "Hey, this is what they're doing now," right?
It is doing that now. Yes, it didn't used to do that, but it is doing that now. And also, if you're on the mobile app and you've recently updated your profile video, and I'm talking probably within the last 2 months,
Mhm.
you'll start getting view counts in the bottom left corner of your mobile view. So it'll tell you how many people have actually looked at your profile video.
Ooh.
Unfortunately, they don't tell you who has looked at your profile video, which is what I thought they were going to do. All you're
Hmm.
getting is a raw number, but still, maybe it's an interesting way of just keeping an eye on how many people are really looking at your stuff. And you could, if you were nerdy enough, you could look at how many profile views you get, let's say in a month, and how many profile video views you get in that month. And then you can make a judgment on, how many people are actually, what percentage of people are really clicking through to watch my video. Hopefully it'll be pretty high. I guess the
Mm.
first 3 seconds are really important in that Harry Potter mode version
Right.
to encourage. And yours is really quite captivating. But I should say that you won't always see that little preview, because if you've turned off autoplay of videos, which I have done, not only with the videos in your feed not autoplay, but this Harry Potter mode won't engage either. And so I have turned that off, and therefore I don't see anyone's preview. But
Oh, really?
I always go and click on it anyway.
Okay. Yeah, I'm the same. I like to look and see what people are, especially people that are kind of like, this is what they do for a living. I'm like, oh, let's see how creative we can be in swapping those out. While I
Yeah.
have your profile up, we're starting to get towards the end of the hour, John. So are you open to accepting connections from invitations to connect from people who are watching today, or what's your philosophy on connecting with people?
I am. I encourage people to read the very final part of my headline, which says "Read my about," and there's a pineapple emoji there. That is put there as a kind of conversation hook to get people to click through to my about statement and read a little bit more information.
Mhm.
Only about 10 or 15% of the people who invite me actually do that. And if you're if you're watching this now, do check out my about statement. Say that you saw me on Brenda's live, and mention the secret word, and I'll be more than likely to accept your invitation.
That's wonderful. And I think, it's good practice for anybody when you invite someone to connect, always include a note, mention, how you came about them, how you found them, how you discover them. If you were referred to them, let them know, the person who referred. So if you do want to connect with John, I encourage you to say, hey, I watched you on Brenda's show today.
Yeah.
Great discussion about LinkedIn groups. And if you found this of value, maybe share something with John that you learn. I mean, I learned so many I learn things from you all the time in these quick conversations, John. You're just brilliant and full of such great advice. So I know you have Espresso, or I'm sorry, Content DNA is the book. Are you working on another book? Do I recall you saying, or?
I am, yes. It's been hard to find time for the second book, but I've got lots of notes. And what I've decided I'm going to do is, just to make sure that I stay accountable, is that when I really get into the fine detail of writing out the chapters, I'm going to be sharing the chapters of the book with Espresso Plus members as I write them. So people will get it piecemeal as I go along. So by the time I'm finished, everyone in the community will have read all of the book. And that's my way of maybe giving back a little bit of value before the thing hits the shelves. But yes, the second book will be called Relentless, and it's
Wonderful.
about how to be the most helpful person in your industry.
Well, and John, you exemplify that. So I want to thank
Thank
you
you.
so much for joining us today. Before we wrap up, any final comments or suggestions for people on LinkedIn groups?
Well, don't be too biased against them just because most of the ones you've tried in the past haven't worked. There are some good ones out there, and if you're going to run your own, just remember that it's a lot of effort to do it properly. There's a lot of engagement that you need to foster, but they can be really, really rewarding. And I've completely changed my opinion on them in the past year. So yeah, give them a whirl.
Wonderful. And where can we learn more about you? I know you said your website. Is that the best place for us to go, to your
Yeah, the
website, your
website and
LinkedIn
my
profile?
LinkedIn profile, those are the main places that I invest my time and energy. I have social media presences on other platforms, but really it's LinkedIn. My website is the main thing. So if you search
Mhm.
for Espirian, then you'll probably find me.
Okay, sounds good. And I want to remind people, what are the services that you offer? I know you talked about the membership in Espresso
Yeah.
Plus. I know you talked about the book,
Mhm.
Content DNA. What
Yeah.
other things do you offer as services for those folks that are listening right now?
I do some profile rewriting, so that involves, just Zoom consultations and a bit of a rewrite on people's headlines and their about statements. And I'm starting to do more in the way of either sort of hour-long consultations about strategy. You don't necessarily need to be a monthly member or anything. You can just book an hour of my time, and I can just unload my brain on you and give you some advice. And also corporate presentations for small groups, small businesses who want just best practice on latest LinkedIn advice about how to get the best out of the platform. So like an hour and a half sessions of remote training. So I'm doing that as well. But I really want to make Espresso Plus the main
Main
activity.
focus. So
Yeah.
when I first came across you, I think you were doing technical copywriting
Yeah.
and you're focusing on, I mean, are you
Yeah.
doing that anymore, or are you
Not
completely
really,
in the
not
LinkedIn
really.
game?
I think
Yeah.
that being able to nerd out and do experiments and get paid for it and repeat, share the results and create videos and help people one to one, that's a lot more interesting to me than helping large faceless organizations write content for their website. So I've got like one retainer client left for copywriting. I'm really all in on the whole Espresso Plus universe now.
Wow, it is so amazing to hear your success and to watch your business evolve and grow and just to watch you and to learn from you, John. So I just want to thank you so much for your time today. I really enjoyed it. And I'm glad we got the chance to catch up a little bit. And I'm looking forward to diving in even deeper on Espresso Plus. I'm super excited. It's just been a bit busy for me in my business, but I really want to sink my teeth more into your group and looking forward to that.
Awesome. Thanks again for having me, Brenda. Cheers.
All right, awesome. Well, I want to thank our viewing audience. If you enjoyed this discussion, before you leave today, do us a quick favor and drop a comment below if there's something particularly helpful that John shared, or just saying thank you to John. I'll make sure to share the link with him later so he can go back and look at your comments and feedback that are coming in. And one other thing you could do, as soon as this video is done playing, you can go on LinkedIn and click on the share button, and you can share this video out to your LinkedIn network. If you haven't posted this week, this month, this year, this could be the post that gets the ball started rolling again. When you share it out, do keep in mind, we'd love it if you could tag John in that share. Just use the @ symbol and type in @John Espirian, and you'll see his name popping up. That way he'll get a notification that you have tagged him in a post. And John is such an awesome person. He will likely comment back and thank you for being so nice as to share it out and helping to spread the word. So with all of that said, I want to thank everyone so much for watching today. Stay safe and stay healthy. Remember, I'm here every Tuesday at about 9:05 p.m. Eastern time. I look forward to seeing you in the future. And John, I look forward to seeing you inside the Espresso Plus group soon.
Thanks, Brenda.
All right, guys, take care. Have a good one. Thank you.